much for joining us again for Hope During the Holidays. And we are joined with Tara Caffell. She is the grief counselor at Living Bridges Therapy Collective. Tara, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, happy to be here.
So, can you tell us about your story of hope for those struggling with grief?
Mm. I actually lost 4 different people throughout 2015, and so at the end of that year, I was very much a shell of myself, rocking quietly in the corner, not able to cope with life anymore at all, and I disappeared to a cabin in the woods and hoped I would find some comfort. And and it turned out to be an opportunity for me as I looked forward and found ways to cope with my loss and with what my life looked like after losing these people that were so important to me. And grief has actually become a companion for me. It's something that I'm deeply grateful for, and I actually I love living with my grief now because it reminds me of how much I've loved and how rich my life has been.
Can you tell us what symptoms that people might be going through with grief? What are some of those symptoms?
Well, there's a whole gamut, really. There's, forgetfulness, there's being scattered, a decreased attention span, heightened anxiety, perhaps insomnia. There's hypervigilance around keeping everyone safe and a fear around that may show up. We also have exhaustion and depression. We have everything in the range. Um, it sort of takes over everything, while we're making sense of that loss before we sort of move forward to coping with it and making sense of it with our lives moving ahead.
Well, what are some tools that people can use when feeling the effects of grief over the holidays?
I would say do what feels deeply comfortable. So find, loved ones who nurture you and make you feel safe and warm and comfortable. Get enough rest, get enough water, eat well. Grief needs food. And so we need to make sure that we take care of our physical body. Additionally, we can seek comfort by journaling, perhaps watching movies that we like, doing things that give us comfort. For some people, it's getting outside, spending time with pets. Um, Really, we wanna give permission to the grief to process and to have a space to be and to talk about what is going on for you. Anything goes at this point just to make it through. It's a very, very hard thing to be with.
How did you create a community of support with grief, and how would you encourage other people to seek that uh, community to seek or have some of those,
Of
tough
course.
conversations?
Well, we're lucky that we live in, obviously with COVID-19 going on, we all live online a lot. So there are a lot more resources than there ever have been to find community who really understand what's happening for you. Um, Perhaps if for instance, lost someone to an overdose, you might be able to reach out to a group where other parents or people have lost someone in a similar way. Same with suicide. We find community in these sort of micro niches of what has happened. So definitely seek that out. I would also, lean into the community you have, but be clear about your boundaries. And by that I mean be clear that you're not going to be, the life of the party at Christmas dinner, but perhaps ask, invite me over, know that I may want to leave early, prop me up in the corner, maybe with a snack and a drink, and let me just be a part of the activity and don't ask too much of me. So be clear and request what you need. Um, Grief is unfortunately one of those things that's really hard for loved ones to be with. They're the people that we're closest to, but they may not understand it or know what to say, and so they may say things that are thoughtless or not very considerate. So we have to keep that in mind and sort of build our people around us accordingly.
Mhm. What can you share to parents that are going through grief right now, that maybe understanding it, or what can you share with those parents?
Mhm. Uh, oh, that's a tough one. It's really a hard thing to be with, particularly at the holidays when everyone is gathering and we may see gifts that we may have bought for our loved one, and they're missing from us and from that space. I would say to give grief permission to be there and know that it's not going to kill you. It's going to hurt, but it is survivable. You will survive. You will make it through. It may not feel like it, and resisting the grief, sort of bracing against it or stuffing it down, isn't going to help you in the long run. So take a moment and feel it. I recommend to clients that they take a or make a date with their grief. To really sit down with a journal or a cup of tea and practice gratitude. Um, Put it in perspective. Feel your feelings. That's your job when you're grieving, is to feel your feelings and recognize that it can be all of the feelings at once. It can be joy, it can be complete sadness, it can be everything. And I think the really key piece here is to, like, we all know someone who's grieving right now, who's had a really rough year. And I think we need to take responsibility for each other right now and reach out. So if we know someone's hurting, all it takes is a text message or a quick phone call to say, "I'm thinking about you. How are you?" It takes the responsibility off the griever's plate and hands it over to us who are able to
Mm,
take care of it.
I love that. If someone's grief is absolutely unbearable this
Right.
holiday, what are some resources and numbers that people can access?
Okay, in BC, I would send everyone to the crisis line offered by TELUS. They've got counselors on staff available to be reached, and that number is 1-833-456-4566. And additionally, you can text the line, which is so great because some of us don't like talking on the phone. And you text 741-741, and you can get some immediate comfort and someone to talk to and someone to touch in with if you're feeling like it is just too much, and it may be.
Yeah. And if after the holidays somebody is ready to work with somebody like yourself, a grief counselor, how can they
Mm.
access your counseling, grief counseling services?
Good question. We have an entire staff who is grief and trauma informed. We all work with people from all walks of grief and all walks of life. So definitely do contact our office. Our number is 250 and you can reach us at our old website address. We're in the process of switching, and that is cndcresources.com.
Okay, Tara, thank you so much for joining us
Oh,
for
thank
Hope
you.
During the Holidays. Thank you.
Merry Christmas to you. Thank you.
You